Hello and welcome to Is This Your Card? Your one-stop show for every Hearthstone card in Hearthstone Heroes of Warcraft. Today, we're looking at Innervate. Innervate is a soulbound card, meaning it doesn't cost any dust to craft, and it costs no dust to craft a gold version of. Instead, Innervate is given to you at basic level 0, and you get the gold version of Innervate at level 36 and level 38 respectively. Innervate is a combo card. For 0 mana, Innervate gives you +2 mana for the duration of that turn, effectively giving you an extra 2 mana to spend. This means that Innervate's use is almost always as a combo card, as mana by itself is just basically your points to spend. Innervate can be used on any turn due to the fact it's free, therefore meaning that there is no point in which you can't play Innervate. Even innovating on turn 1 allows you to play a 2-cost minion immediately, though that's of limited use. Innervate's best and most primary use is either to pull out very heavy and high-cost minions early, or to combo in a combination of minions that would be particularly lethal or devastating. This, in turn, means that Innervate is actually a very, very good card for its cost, however, is not generally very often played. The reason Innervate isn't very often used is because Innervate is a primarily combo-centric card. Innervate becomes effectively redundant at 10 mana because generally you're not going to have a hand that you can play efficiently with 12 mana at 10 mana. You generally won't have a combination of cards that can be reasonably played, or a combination of spells that can be effectively comboed at that point, and therefore Innervate isn't useful. Innervate is better gained during the first 3 turns in the case of having a fairly weak minion deck, or in the first 6 turns if you have a deck that focuses primarily on strong minions, where Innervate is able to resoundingly boost forward and produce minions that are far stronger than they should be at the level at which you're playing them. Here's a couple of examples to demonstrate the power of Innervate. For example, on turn 4, you could Innervate into a 6-cost creature, a good example of which would be the Lord of the Arena. Lord of the Arena on turn 6 itself isn't too useful because it only has 5 health, but on turn 4 it will almost certainly go 2-1. While that isn't particularly useful necessarily because you did Innervate to get it, a Lord of the Arena still is 6 damage on the board, and will probably kill anything that trades into it at that point in the game. Another good idea for a nice Innervate combo would be to Innervate from 1 mana into 3 mana in order to play a Raging Worgen. The reason why you might be pulling out a Raging Worgen early, especially if you have Moonfire in your deck or in your hand, was that meaning on turn 2 you could enrage that Worgen and are able to do 8 damage across the board to whatever you choose. And generally, the opponent won't have ability to do 3 direct damage to a minion at that point, unless you're fighting a mage, in which case they could Frostbolt. But then if the mage sinks a Frostbolt on your innervated Worgen, while that does mean you're down cards and he does have the card advantage, you have sufficiently gained momentum and removed his removal, allowing you for a better play. Strangely enough, Innervate actually has a lot of powerful combinations with spells. Innervate itself is actually incredibly useful when used in conjunction with the phenomenally good spell Wild Growth. Because Innervate makes Wild Growth effectively free, it allows you to play Wild Growth in situations where you've spent your entire mana pool that turn. Wild Growth effectively giving you a mana crystal for 2 cost, meaning you can accelerate far more. Innervate can actually also use Wild Growth to trade, because innovating into Wild Growth when you have run out of mana for that turn will allow you to draw another card. It's not particularly useful, but it does mean that the next turn, where you also have 10 mana, you have that extra card instead of the existing Wild Growth, which was effectively useless. This also means that Innervate can be used in some situations to get rid of cards that could be potentially lethal or dangerous. For the most part though, Innervate should be used primarily as an economic and defensive boostering card. It can be used offensively for deadly potential against decks that are primarily focused on putting a lot of threat on the board early on, because Innervate allows you to put even more threat on the board early on and counter your opponent's threat. Innervate is also very useful in decks where the big focus is a lot of huge minions, because Innervate allows you to play them earlier. Innervate effectively allows you to keep a better grab of the board. Innervate therefore synergizes incredibly well with things like legendaries and giants, because it makes them effectively cost less, even though they don't. because you get effectively free mana. Therefore, I would highly recommend Innervate for any deck and any card combination that extensively uses expensive and powerful minions. That's it for today's episode of Is This Your Card? Tune in next time to see another great look at another great Hearthstone card.